Jesus didn't have a problem with people that's in the streets. He had a problem with religious people.
How can I help anybody when when I was not even able to help my own son?
I would never do that. And I became that in a matter of minutes when they took my pain pills away.
And I said, I'm not where I want to be, but thank God I'm not what I used to be.
This is Faith in Your Recovery. I am Randy Davis. Welcome to the battle. Hey folks, welcome back. We're glad to have you with us here on Faith in Your Recovery. Remember, as you can tell right now, we're live. If you've got a question or comment, get it to us. Keep your eye on the screen. We're going to have a lot of good information. You know, we've been doing this podcast. This is like number 147, 148. We're right at that 150 mark. And we've used that same introduction most of the way through. And I'm excited to hear it each week because I knew those people personally. I know what their life was like before they found recovery, and I know where their life's at now that they're working in that recovery. So that's our goal, to touch you, to give you some advice maybe you're hunting for. We're not here to take the place of any kind of professional therapy or professional help that you get. We're an aid to all of that. We're a plus, okay? So once again, thanks for listening in. Our guest today from the Madison County PATH, kind of AKA turning point of Madison County, is Stephanie Murphy. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. I've seen you here in the Christian Center several weeks now, and I know you guys, and we're going to have a second person here in a moment. Tammy will be with us. But I know you guys have looked at this and considered it. Thanks for being here for us today.
Sure.
All right. Hey, tell the folks a little bit about your role, who you are, what you're about with Madison County PATH.
We're excited to have made the transition from Turning Point to Madison County PATH. We have our branch here in Anderson, and then we also have a location in Elwood. It is our desire to continue to grow and maybe be able to put a hub out on the other side of Anderson, where there doesn't seem to be a lot of that immediate walk-in, receive services right away.
Awesome.
And we still are working on that speed to service. So when you come in, you get to talk to somebody right then. There's not that 6 or 8 week wait list that a lot of times our folks are running into. So we're excited to continue that momentum that we've got going.
Yeah. And some of our folks who are struggling with substance use disorder / addiction, they don't have that 6 or 8 weeks, do they?
Right. That's a very short window a lot of times when you realize that you're at that point where you're willing to accept some assistance. And then to be able to have someone to help you navigate that system as far as how to get in. Is my insurance going to cover it? What do I do if I don't have the money? Those are all questions that run through people's heads, and that's difficult when you want help but don't know where is it and can I afford it.
Yeah. Well, Stephanie, kind of guide us through that. Give us some of the bullet points of if I was to walk in and say, I'm ready for help. What would be your approach? How would you deal with me?
Well, the first point that I think is very exciting is when you walk in that door, you get to speak to a PRC right away, and that's a peer recovery coach. That individual has either already been in your shoes or is a family member or a close relative of someone who's been through that same struggle. So you immediately get to interact with somebody who can understand what your barriers and your obstacles of even walking in that front door were. So that immediate ability to put that person at ease, I think, is huge. So you're going to come in, you're going to be able to speak to that person. They're going to help you, walk you through filling out some just very basic paperwork so we can get what we need. And then they're going to make an assessment. We're going to do a drug screen. We're going to talk to you about your habits and what kinds of things that you want to accomplish.
An interview kind of thing, yes?
And it's very simple. It's very casual. It is not a type of situation where you may walk in and you feel like you're not welcome, or you're not good enough to be there, or you're just kind of put into a sterile environment.
It's not threatening at all.
No.
The idea is to welcome at the start, give them a smile, and mean that smile. You may not know that PRC, that peer recovery coach. They may be a stranger, but they're not strangers to your story. And we recognize that every story has its own nuances, but they've got the basic idea to be able to go, yeah, shake their head with you and confirm what you're saying. Go ahead, please.
Sure. They get it. I
like that.
They get where you are. And so they're going to help you navigate what's the best place for you right now. Is it, oh gosh, I kind of oopsied, I messed up, so I just really need a PRC to talk to kind of help me get out of this jam I'm in, or this depression I'm in, or they like to call it this funk I'm in. Help me get out of that. Or am I a habitual offender who recognizes that there is something much deeper going on? Because what we typically find, and I think Tammy will speak more to this, is you've got co-occurring things happening. We may have an addiction, but maybe what got us to that addiction was a mental health issue. And if we don't address that issue, we're not going to get past that addiction.
Have to get to the core, yes.
And so we're going to figure out what that is. If you want to go inpatient, we're going to help you navigate that. We've made some very nice collaborations, not only in Madison County. Sometimes you're better to go outside of the county and get away from the environment that got you where you are. So we're going to start reaching out. We're going to find out what kind of insurance you have or don't have, so we know what facility to refer you to. And we're going to walk you through the process. You can come in. If it's going to take a minute, we're going to send you over. Make sure you get something to eat. If you need some clothing, we collaborate really close with the Christian Center. We'll get some clothes, and then we'll get you a location that can take you. We'll see who has a bed, where we can get you. It's very exciting and fulfilling to see someone come in the door, get you a meal, get you what you need, and then we're actually able to get you inpatient that day.
Help me with this. Let's say I've walked through the door. We start that navigation process. We get to the question of insurance or no insurance, and I say I have none. Do I still have hope? Is there still a chance for me?
We actually will help walk you through, because almost everyone, if you don't have private insurance, you're eligible for some type of Medicaid, HIP, some type of program. So that's where our PRC is going to reach out and say, let's get some, they call it preemptive Medicaid. We make some phone calls, you answer some questions, and we go ahead and we get that preemptive in place. Lots of places are taking that with us doing the calling and the navigating for you. So just because you don't have insurance absolutely should not deter you from reaching out.
So you guys, it sounds like, work at taking away our excuses. You try to have an answer for the question before it's asked, and you've been through it enough that you know a lot of the questions that are asked, so you can immediately put me at ease when you say, hey, we can help with this. We can help you find a way to afford this. So that should not be an excuse for someone who's desiring recovery or help with their addiction.
Exactly. Even the classes that we offer, which a lot of times are court-ordered. So if you're involved in the probation system or you're involved in the court system, they're aware of our programs. They all are approved, so they're going to meet their guidelines. And we can help walk you through those as well. So there's lots of options. It isn't always that you have to wait until you're in a situation where you're ready to go inpatient. We love when somebody comes in and says, you know what, I kind of foresee that this is where this is headed, and I want to be proactive. What can I do to stop that ball rolling down? And so there's lots of other options that you have, and we want to make sure you have all your options, all your resources, and then someone to help walk you through what those are. So we don't just hand you a bunch of flyers and send you on your way.
Yes, yes. Stephanie, let's talk a moment or two about your background. Do you come from a background of addiction?
I do not. My degree is in social work, but I grew up in a neighborhood where drugs were very prevalent. I think one of the largest impact on me was there was a neighbor who was my same age, who, due to drugs and trauma, shot himself in the backyard. So I heard the gunshot. I saw the ambulances. I saw the grieving brother and sister, the grieving mother. And that, at that time of my life, at like 10 years old, was a huge impact because he was only 12.
Wow.
So that really hit hard. And then, like I said, drugs were very prevalent in our neighborhood and where we grew up. And I think only by the grace of God and paternal guilt did neither my sisters or I get involved in that. I lost my father at a very young age. And I've had people ask me that before. How did you get out of that neighborhood and not experience either alcoholism, drugs,
Sure.
something? And my answer to that is always, I saw what my mother went through when my dad died. And me being 4, my middle sister 6, and my oldest sister 13, it was, I can't put her through anything else. I just can't. She's been through the ringer. But had that not been the case, or had one of my older sisters followed that path, I very, very honestly could see myself having traveled that so easily.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As I listen to that story there, and I hear it was from what you saw, what you experienced, and what you wanted to stay away from because you knew what it was going to do.
Right.
Early on, you saw results and the situation at home, and there are so many out there who live in that same vicinity. And by that, I mean in any town, USA. There's that area that's a little rougher to live in than another.
Mm-hmm.
But with you sharing this, that you were able to survive through that, obviously it can be done. I never heard you once say it was easy to do that, but I heard you say that you were determined to do that for several reasons. So you maintained that attitude, that spirit, and fought your way through it.
Well, and I have to give credit where credit's due. There was a little church up the street, Maple Grove Church of God, with a missionary at the head of the pastor at that time. We had never attended that church, had nothing to do with it. And he came down to my mother and he said, I hear that your husband's passed and you have 3 little girls. If there's anything we can do, please reach out. And just him taking that 15 minutes to reach out, our entire family became Maple Grove Church of God individuals. All of my sisters were married in that church, everything. And
I am sure that wasn't his purpose, to get you in his house. He wanted you in God's house.
Correct.
Wherever that was. It just happened to land there.
And I guess what I want the takeaway from that to be, you may not think people are listening. You may not know them. It may be 10 minutes out of your day. But if you see somebody struggling, if you just take those few minutes and reach out, you have no idea what kind of impact that can make.
I have spent my life in service and closeness to other people as a coach, a pastor, et cetera, et cetera. And I love it to this day when a young man will come up to me and say, hey, coach, or hi, coach. I remember a lesson you taught me, and they'll tell me what that was. And that is why you do it. You don't do it for the money. Any kind of social work is not known for the financial rewards, but the spiritual and the heartfelt rewards, it makes it worth it. Yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Can you see yourself ever having done anything else than what you're doing now? Now, I don't necessarily mean here at Madison County PATH, but the path you've chosen for your life.
You know, I took some time and worked in early education. And I still to this day love kids, love working with kids, love being around them, their energy, their innocence. But I can't ever see myself not working in some realm of social service. It's just one of those things that I think once you have dipped your toe into, you can't get back out. And it's come full circle for me because I started in social work. I got to do the early education. I got to play with the little ones. And I've just come full circle because although I loved it, it wasn't social services. It wasn't the same thing.
And my wife is very similar in an opposite way. She was a first grade teacher for 41 years and loved the 200th day of her 41st year as much as she did the first day of her first year. And so when we find that passion, wow, it's no longer a job. And I hope that for you folks out there that you're able to accomplish your passion in life.
And I think that's something people will find when you call McPath. We shorten it to McPath or MC Path. You get to talk to somebody who this is their passion. They're not here for a paycheck. They're not here because they don't have any place else they can go. They're truly here because they want to be here.
They care.
And I think that comes through from the very first phone call you make to maybe your last therapy session or your graduation from Prime for Life or your graduation from anger management class. You get to see that folks are here because they want to be here.
You folks want to see people succeed in life. Success is different to me than it is to you. Hooray, that's wonderful. I don't want us all the same, but you're here to give folks a step up, a hand up, gosh, just to help. Is there anything else you'd like to throw in here, Stephanie, that we haven't touched on or talked about professionally or personally?
I do want to make sure, because this has been a big change, I want to make sure that individuals know that our crisis line phone number has changed. We are now at 765-393-7838. That line is manned 24/7. So if you're in a moment, you need need some help, you're not sure where to reach out to, call us. We're going to do what we can to help you get through that moment, give you the resources that you need, and just work through it with you.
You know, that's got to be comforting. No, 24/7. I don't know how many times I've gotten an answering machine in places I don't understand them not being live. Okay.
I've been put on hold on 911.
Yeah, that's not something you want. I'm sure something they wanted to have happen.
It was not helpful.
No. Give the folks that number again. Now they've had a chance to grab a pen or a pencil. Go ahead and give them that crisis line number again,
Sure.
knowing it's 24/7 access.
It is 765-393-7838. I will also add that we are at mcpath.org. So we have our website where you can go on, see all the services that we offer, and you can actually fill out a registration right there online. It'll come to us, and we will call you.
mcpath.org, right?
Correct.
All right. I'm always been one to believe we've got to hear something more than once. I want that crisis line
Perfect.
told once more.
765-393-7838.
Call it if you need it. Know it's there, and the help can begin as soon as you make the call or the contact. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. We're going to turn it over here in just a minute to Tammy Rigdon. Tammy's going to be our guest. They're making the transition of their seating at this time. Tammy's got a guest with her as well, okay? A pouch with a dog. So, and you said the dog's name was Izzy? Izzy, all right. So, welcome to our program, Tammy. And I'm going to kind of start off the same way with you that I did, Stephanie. Go ahead and tell the folks who you are, what you're about, how you got to this place today.
Well, I'm Tammy Rigdon. I'm a social worker. I'm a licensed addiction therapist and mental health. How I got here is really crazy. I was going to school, didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, ended up taking psychology classes, got a bachelor's in criminal justice and in psychology. It was time to graduate, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So, alrighty then.
Get a little closer.
So my advisor said, hey, you're going to go on for a master's, and I didn't realize it was time to graduate, so I chose social work and got my master's there. I still didn't know what I wanted to be, so I was doing leadership. I wasn't doing mental health. And the advisors there said, try it. Just try the addiction and mental health. I went, nah. They finally talked me into it, and it was all that wrote. Just went from there.
Why didn't that sound of interest to you? Was it too far away from who you were or too close?
Well, like they would say to me at school, I am more psychology, straightforward and direct, and social worker is more soft.
Yes.
So I'm not that soft person. There is not a soft piece on me. So they would say, Tammy, try to be a little bit more social worky, less psychology. I'm like, nah, it doesn't work for me.
Okay.
And then I moved from there and got trained at the VA and worked in the SATS department. That's the addiction program under Dr. O'Connor. He was a neuropsychiatrist.
Where was this?
VA, Radabush.
Okay, Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm familiar being a veteran, having had involvement with a gift card project. There are 3 VAs in Indiana, so I was curious.
Yeah, so I did that and loved it. I was hired, but then not able to stay because they froze. That was during the hiring freeze. So then I moved on, ended up at Lifeline Youth and Family Services doing home-based for addiction, for domestic violence, for DCS, and then got recruited by Meridian and moved over to Meridian doing the same thing I'm doing now, addiction and mental health. I did all their assessments between Newcastle and Richmond. And then I had a little small sabbatical. My son was injured in Afghanistan. And so in a matter of, 48 hours, 72 hours, I was moving myself with my son to D.C., to Walter Reed, and lived there for 2 years. And then when I came home, it took me a little while to wrap my head around being home and not walking away from either one of my children. And then I came back to Meridian, and that brought me to here.
I hope your son's doing okay now.
He is. Both my older children
okay
are. Yeah.
For them. So, all right. Did they both serve in Afghanistan?
They both served in Afghanistan. They're both 100% disabled from the war. My son, Madison County adopted my son back in 2011 and helped build him a home here in Madison County. They've helped, Summer with different things. It's my other daughter. And they're thriving. They're doing really well.
Hooray. They deserve to. Thank you both for your service. As I said, I'm a veteran. I believe veterans suffer a unique struggle at times. So hooray for this community for getting behind them, and hope and pray the best for all of you.
Thank you. They're doing wonderful.
Awesome. What is it about what you're doing that fulfills you? What is it that brings a smile to your heart and face?
I would say watching the light bulb go on.
What a moment.
Yeah, watching the light bulb on. I could have anything I wanted growing up. raised by my grandparents, spoiled. But as I turned into a teen, I decided to take life into my own hands and went down wrong roads, and had to learn the hard way, living on the street or whatever it was I was doing, even though they were still there with open arms. I took some struggles. And being an underdog and having people reach out to help me, and it wasn't in an addiction. I mean, as a teen in high school, I sampled. I tried different things, but nothing like what they have out on the market now. Just the basic, remember the old-fashioned drugs.
Absolutely.
But never did any addiction, never. But I did do a lot of things that if I was a child now would have been looked at as I would have been in juvenile hall. I mean, life was much different back in the 70s and the 80s, much different. So struggling with learning disabilities, not really a learning disability. I was just a slow learner. I was always criticized, put down. And so getting that extra help, that one teacher that reached out or anybody, the light bulb finally came on, and I was a late bloomer. And I look at everybody else, us underdogs, we have a chance. Somebody just has to give it to us.
Amen to that. Just that moment as we talked earlier of saying, you can do this, and I'll show you how, and then you can get it done. Mm-hmm. However that may look or play out, it can happen in so many different ways. Beyond that light bulb moment, what is it that brings you back to work every day, that inspires you to move forward? Because I've been in this long enough to realize sometimes our losses seem far more than our gains. When we make that effort and we don't see a difference, but it's that one moment we remember that causes us to push forward.
It's them walking in the door. I mean, or picking up the phone to make that first phone call. People think, well, it's not a big talk. Just call. Just go with her and fill out the paperwork. That's probably one of their biggest steps. That is hard. And watching them be able to do that and ask for help, even though they don't know if they're ready. They may not be ready. They're being forced to by courts or whoever, is behind them. They made the step. That's all that matters. I don't care why they got there. They tried. I don't care if they come once a month and drop out and come back and try again. They're making the step.
Where in this do you see your personal faith at work?
Gosh, it's hard to say. I can't say patience because I don't have patience. But I can say it's just fulfilling. It's just fulfilling knowing that I was helped in different areas for different reasons, and being able to give that back. That's what's important. If I didn't have anybody reach out to me when I was younger, as a young mom, I went through a lot as a young mom. I was a battered wife. There was so many other things that happened during that time that if I didn't have anybody there, I don't know where I would have ended up to move forward. And so it's knowing that I can give somebody else that chance. And at some point they may not like me, and then they will later. It's a roller coaster ride.
Sure. I have some of those moments of pain in my own life, and I've realized that my healing comes in helping others, that I don't want to see anybody go through this path, and I probably poor choice of words by Madison County PATH, but to go this trail, to go that direction. And if I can help stop them, I'll trip them once to do that, okay? Mm-hmm. And then hopefully they'll keep in that direction that's going to be best for them. What's one of your biggest challenges in this?
Not working 24/7, actually. It's knowing when to stop. That's a big challenge for me. I have to know when to turn it off.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
For people persons, okay?
Yes.
And those who want to be of service and help to others. So how many total years have you been at this recovery work and therapy work? How many years?
Well, if you count like my training at the VA or prior
Yes,
to
I
that, my
wanna
other
know.
practicums, since 2005.
Okay, so we're talking nearly 20 years. What are changes you've seen in the recovery process?
The thinking.
Which
The thinking
means
for the staff side, for our side, for the professional side, the way we approach things, trying to move from checking a box into really giving them all they need. So a lot of times it used to be just IOP, 6 weeks, 3 days a week, 3 hours. You have to do all these little worksheets. Great, you graduate, move on. To now there's different models out there that all the professionals, we all pick one. I use the matrix model. And it has so many other things in there because my favorite population is this population and people who are in the correctional facilities or have blemishes on their record because they remind me that nobody's perfect. And anybody out there could be them. There was a story of a gentleman years and years ago when I worked at the prisons who didn't wake up planning on living in prison and making a crime. He did not. But some very bad things happened with his daughter, and before the trials and everything, he ran into the person who did it. Something snapped, and he harmed that person very badly, which ended up in prison. So there's no keeping anybody away from where they're at, what they're doing, because you don't know.
As I read in the scriptures, there's not a story in there that didn't have a moment. You think of David, you think of so many, and they have that background where there was failure, but you build on that failure. You learn from it, and you move forward to success for you. What do you think it is that we need as a recovery culture more of today to help those who are battling addiction?
Take the initiative and educate yourself. Depending on the models that are used, there's programs where family members can attend like once a week for an hour and a half or something not to do a family session, but to be part of the IOP group, to learn about what the family's going through, to learn about how their recovery is, what's physiologically going on, changing a habit, joining podcasts, learning more about their life. It's no longer this is your brain frying with an egg on the sidewalk. There's more to it, and we need to get rid of that stigma. We need to get rid of that stigma because I've had patients who grew up on drugs. I mean, from infancy all the way through to adulthood, having kids.
I've met them, yes.
And so now they're in groups with me or somebody else having to learn a whole new lifestyle. Everything, their entire world is changing because they have to walk away from, or they chose to walk away from their entire family so that they can make a better life. So they're really starting from the ground up with a blank slate, lost, confused, but they're trying. And I think those are the hardest moments, and they're not given enough credit for what they're trying to do. And people need to educate themselves so that it's not a choice once it turns into an addiction. It's a choice when we're trying it, hanging out with our friends at the park, having a joint, or I want to try this. That's a choice. But at some point it changes. And that's when it's no longer a choice.
It could happen in a hurry, that change.
Yes.
The next one, whatever that means and wherever you're at with that. I like that idea of, we've got to be able to connect with them. We don't have to understand them as a parent, as a, brother, sister, but give them the chance to explain themselves and listen. Hear who that struggler is. Come to know them and allow them that freedom to make their choice, but encourage it in a very positive way, in a positive direction.
Many people who have an addiction, they don't want to have that. They don't want to be in that situation. And that's why they've stopped and started and stopped and failed and restarted and so many times because it's hard. It's very hard. And they really want to change, but they have to have the people to give them a chance.
You just brought a thought to mind. It's a very upfront question, but you made it clear you can handle the upfront. This is a therapist question, all right?
Okay.
You said they may not want that addiction. Have you ever dealt with someone who did? That their plan at 5 years old was, I hope to be an addict someday.
No.
Or met anybody who said, I'm going to work that path, go in that direction out of intention. I can't wait to feel that pain, the loss, the suffering, headed to rehab 6 or 7 times or whatever the case is. There's nobody out there who wants it. And I've yet to know of anybody to say, I want to get back to it once they've found recovery.
That's very true. And different words might come out of their mouth, like,
Sure.
this is too hard, it's easier just to be an addict.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean they don't want it. They want to be in recovery. It just means they don't know how.
How can you know what you don't know?
Right. And they just need someone to take their hand and let them lean on you. Be their crutch while they're trying. They're not taking advantage of you.
Yeah.
It's usually the other way around. The families or the close friends are enabling them instead of doing what they need to do. And that's why I really think education is huge, to learn more about it. And there's so many therapists out there that you can reach out to anybody that could help you figure it out.
That's part of that stigma and bias you were talking about a little bit ago as well. We've got to educate ourselves. And you made that statement earlier.
Yes.
The importance of that. And it is. And it's not, though I'm not putting it down totally, it's not just that commercial on TV. You got to go a little deeper and find out. Is there anything you'd like to wrap up with here, Tammy? Anything you'd like to say? Make sure before you're done, you give us that crisis line number again, but what is it that you'd like to add?
Well, I want to add, I don't only do addiction. You know,
Okay.
we have our offender population. Maybe they never had an addiction, but they have a lot of habitual crimes. You know, and that might be the only road they know. But they may want to change it. And they take just as much care and compassion and guidance to help them. They don't need pity. They don't want you to feel sorry for them. They just want to learn how. And that's just as important to help them make changes, because they can change. I mean, recidivism rates lower the more educated the person is. And the other thing I wanted to share is MC PATH has made a lot of great changes. And reaching out and, you know, implementing different types of assessments to our clientele to help them and to put them in the right groups. You know, we've reached out and we've trained myself to become certified in a couple other ones. And they're a wonderful tool, you know, that's been adopted by almost 39 different states.
Do you feel confident in it?
Oh, I love
in
it,
what
yeah.
it's doing, and is it helping?
It is very helpful. It's called the ASAM. It's put together by the Social Society of American Medical Model, and it has like 6 different dimensions. And so it's doing the entire person, from withdrawal to needs to what kind of a recovery to strengths. It covers everything. So it's a more detailed in-depth assessment that helps the whole person. So now when you walk away from that, you have a full view of what they need, and it also guides you on what kind of treatment to give them. And the state of Indiana, I believe, I'm not positive, but I read somewhere that they're trying to adopt it. So I don't know if they're one of the 39, they're thinking about it, but they're putting the training out there.
Awesome.
And that is just one more thing to help everybody. And the PRCs, I cannot say enough how I could not do what I'm doing without them. There is no possible way. We are equal. We both tackle from both sides, helping, leaning on each other. We argue, we disagree, we come to an agreement, but there's no way to do it without the other. It's just not possible. And I don't know how I did it before.
I get the idea they're very front line.
They are.
And they are there at the start of the game. It may be your first introduction to recovery with that PRC.
Yeah, they
so
have
hooray
it. Yeah.
for them all.
Yep. That's
Good.
it. That's, what I got to say.
Okay, hit us with that crisis line number again, folks. Remember, this is the crisis line number available 24/7, Madison County PATH.
It is 765-393-7838.
All right, and that internet information again?
765-393-7838.
All right, and then what was it? McPath.org?
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep, mcpath.org. And it takes
Awesome.
you to where you can register online without even coming in. And then we'll reach out to you. We also have, if you call the front desk or call that number, they'll DocuSign you paperwork so you don't have to come in. So you're just making one trip if you need to, just whatever is easiest. Stephanie over there comes up with some great ways for us to administratively connect our patients the easiest way.
That's important. Listen, thank you both, Tammy, Stephanie. Thank you to your organization. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your willingness to be there for others and with others. That's an important combination, folks. We're just trying to eliminate another excuse and give you another reason to make the contact, to make the choice, to do recovery. We believe it can be done. Nobody's ever said it's simple, but it wasn't easy to get where you are. It won't be easy to get out of it. It can be done, and you can look back at it, and maybe you'll be the next one there to help someone else along the way. Thank you for listening. As we always say, stay in the battle. God bless and thank you.